The Maple Leafs signed Nick Robertson, but is he a lock for the opening night roster? We'll discuss that. And Team Canada's Olympic Summer Showcase roster on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's happening, Dave? How are you feeling? How was your weekend?
It wasn't too bad. Watched the Jays get absolutely pummeled by the Royals. Was not expecting that. Not a good start.
Yeah, panicking. You panicking? It's two straight series now where the Jays have not looked so good. They're looking more like their April Blue Jays than they were their May, June, July Blue Jays. What's the concern level here on you?
I mean, this is why, like, I kind of always try to temper expectation when it comes to baseball because things can change rather suddenly. So, like, I'm not overly concerned about the Jays because I'm looking at the other teams in the division, and Yankees have been playing just as bad as the Jays.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, the pitching's got to get a lot better, and there's just a couple of things that need to get better. Now they're working in new players back into the lineup like Varsho and Kirk and all that, so it's going to take time for them to get back up to speed. But, like, yeah, I'm not concerned, but at the same time, like, it's just not a good look after the trade deadline. You lose a series to the Royals, who are barely in a playoff race.
Yeah, they have some decent pitching, though, I will say.
Yeah.
The offense not great, but they got some decent pitching. Bobby Wood aside, who's a beast. I still got confidence that this team can get on the rails and get going here. I went and saw the Shane Bieber start down in Buffalo today. I went to the Bison's game, got a chance to lay eyes on Bieber. Guy can throw a baseball. Pretty good at throwing the baseball. So I can't wait to see him in a Blue Jays uniform. For more Jays talk, you can go check out the Locked On Blue Jays podcast. But this is the Locked On Leafs podcast, and we did have some Leafs news trickle in over the weekend. We knew that we were going to have something to talk about today regarding Nick Robertson. The arbitration date and the hearing was set for Sunday. So we knew that we were going to get an arbitration number at some point or something to talk about here. But it never got there, Dave. It never got to the hearing. The Maple Leafs and Nick Robertson ended up hammering out a deal prior to having to step foot into the courtroom. And it's a one-year deal, $1.825 million. Robertson back with the Leafs. What'd you make of it, Dave?
Yeah, it was just kind of what we expected. Teams, I mean, like, no one wants to go through arbitration. I know the Leafs have done it a couple of times the last few years. But, like, no one really wants to have to prepare for an arbitration case and do, like, this relationship has already been kind of, teetering on the edge. You don't need another reason to just add, more fuel to the fire. So, like, I'm just glad that, they just said, okay, let's split the difference. We want 1.2. You want 2.25. Let's just go down the middle, call it a day, and get this contract wrapped up.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they decided to do. Like, they met in the middle, which is exactly where we kind of figured things would end up realistically. I don't know. When you look at it, like Nick Robertson, the goal production, if you just strictly look at the offense, I mean, yeah, I think it's worth paying a 15-goal scorer $1.8 million. I think that's a normal price to pay.
Yeah.
Well, you think about, I don't know, like, he scores sometimes, but also he goes through big stretches where he doesn't. And when he's not scoring, he's not doing anything else for you, right? Like, that's my issue when it comes to Nick Robertson. And it's like, okay, when he's hot and he could score in bunches when he gets hot, all right, that's great. But when he's just not doing a whole lot. Like he's not able to forecheck effectively. He's not a penalty killer. He's not making his way onto the top power play unit. He's just kind of out there and he plays like 10, 11, 12 minutes, floats. He's not big enough, strong enough to really be a force out there with the puck either. So it's real interesting for me when I look at Nick Robertson. I personally don't see him making this opening night roster, and I just find it hard to stomach if that's the case. Him being paid $1.8 million this year to sit up in the press box.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of been my issue is when he's not scoring, what else is he providing you? And I haven't liked what he's provided because, there are small players who in this league that find other ways to contribute, right? I don't know what the size comparison between Marner and Robertson is, but like I don't think it's that.
Yeah, Marner's a little bit bigger. Like he's like 3 inches taller and like 10, 15 pounds heavier. Like Marner's not a terribly small person,
No,
realistically. Like a Travis Konechny is about say roughly a similar size as a Nick Robertson. Like Konechny's I think is only like 5'10", $185. Like Easton Cowan is in the similar kind of similar situation. But Nick Robertson, I think, is a couple inches smaller. But still, like to your point, there are a lot of small guys in the league who figure out a way how to play, like Cole Caulfield, right? Cole Caulfield can do more than just shoot the puck, right? Johnny Gaudreau did more than just shoot the puck, So Quinn Hughes does more than just, skate around and shoot the puck. Like he can actually play on both ends of the ice. Got terrific off puck skills, So that's the type of stuff you have to adopt to. You can't play as small as you are in the NHL, especially if you're not really getting opportunity in the top six.
Yeah.
You gotta do other things to show your value, and he just hasn't been able to really prove that he belongs in a top six role. And he'll probably get an opportunity. Like, don't get me wrong, he'll probably get an opportunity in training camp to play in the top six, but I don't know. When I'm putting together my lineup card for game one, to me, he's not in it. So if he's not in the top six, he's not on it for me.
And I think that's what people have a big problem with Robertson is that if he's not going to be on your lineup card, why is he on the team, right? Like why do we have another guy in the press box making 1.8, right? Like a lot of people when when I kind of gave my thoughts initially on when the deal was signed, like people like he needs to be in every, our buddy James from Offside needs to be an everyday player. Maybe they keep him around in case, something happens where somebody gets moved down, they can slot him in or someone gets hurt. Like you do need those players, but it's just like 1.8 million seems a little much to throw at a guy like this where yes, the Leafs have the cap space, but they just don't have the roster space. Like now it's 16 forwards that they have.
I just find it hard to believe that there wasn't like, I don't know, like if there was no team out there willing to spend a third, fourth round pick to trade for Nick Robertson, like was anyone going to give him this type of money though either? Like, is he worth that type of cash? Like that's a question that I do hold. And I don't know, maybe there are some bigger Robertson fans out there and teams just haven't had the opportunity to make that acquisition, make that trade. But I still kind of think that there's a shot that Robertson's trade demand still ends up coming to fruition, because we saw a similar situation a year ago with Timothy Liljegren, who settled out of court. They decided that they were, instead of going to arbitration, they found out a number. It seemed too high at the time. Still was too high. I think he signed for like $3.2 million. It was an absurd contract that Liljegren got, but they found a taker for him, right? San Jose took him, and they got actual assets back in return for that contract, in return for that young player. Perhaps they're looking to do the same thing with Nick Robertson. And if that's the case, Tree Living must know that there are some fans of his that are still out lurking in the NHL, thinking that he can kind of, dip back into his junior ties when he was scoring, 50 plus goals a season. And if you can, score 15 in like a 60 game pace, he should be a 20 goal scorer. And there are a lot of teams who could use a 20 goal scorer on their lineup, and maybe, other teams that have a hole in the top 6 for him to fit into, which would give him more opportunity to score and, make it worth their while. So I'm sure there's a team that would be willing to roll the dice there if that turns out to be the case. But for now, he is a Maple Leaf. He'll come to camp if he's still on the roster. He'll compete. He'll be given an opportunity. Just not sure I like his odds of supplanting someone in the top 6. And seems like there's a bit more of a built identity of size and size and speed and defensive prowess in the bottom 6 this year. It's clearly not Nick Robertson's game. So not much of a fit. Not much of a fit down there. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with Nicky Bobby. All right. On the other side, some other big news around the hockey world. Hockey Canada announcing an Olympic orientation camp later this month. One special Maple Leaf got the nod. A former Maple Leaf got the nod. And some other interesting names to discuss who will be at the camp. We'll get to that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you're somebody that wants to figure out how much you're spending on all your subscriptions, or if you want to see how much you're spending on something each and every week, it helps just to find out where everything is adding up. Also, if you're sharing your finances with someone, it's a lot easier and a lot less stressful with Monarch, as you can look at both shared and personal accounts at the same time. And you can also help set financial goals and be serious about reaching them. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are 3 days a week throughout the summer, all leading all the way up until training camp. Then we get back to 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. You can find the podcast free and available wherever you subscribe to your podcast. You can also find us on YouTube as well. Hit subscribe and help us get to that 10K mark, the road to 10K. We'll be giving away a Leafs jersey once we get there. So sub up quickly and be a friend. Tell a friend about the Locked On Leafs podcast. So I had a good conversation today with a couple of buddies of mine when I was down at the game, talking about the Blue Jays, and it obviously ends up leading to some Leaf conversation naturally, as it typically does when Toronto boys start talking sports. It usually gets to the Leafs, and talking about how they're asking me my thoughts. What do I think? How are the Leafs going to do without Marner? And it's very clearly going to be a different looking team. And, it's not that they replace Marner, but I feel like there's some sentiment out there that without Marner, like this team has no shot. Like this team, will barely be a playoff team. Like, do you feel like the loss of Mitch Marner is so seismic that it completely, takes his team from being divisional champions, which they were a year ago, to being like outside looking in, battling for that final wildcard spot? Is he that big of a loss? And did they not do nearly enough to replace it?
Yeah, I mean that's always kind of been that's a lot of people have kind of brought up this whole idea of letting Marner go, right? And you brought in a bunch of players and you helped the depth, but at the end of the day, it's your big boys that get you to the playoffs. And I said, they still have Matthews. They still have Nylander. Tavares had over 37 goals, 38 goals last year. Like they still have those players. They still have Matthew Nyes. So like they're still going to be competitive. But losing Marner does bring the stock down a little bit because you're not able to replace that very easily.
Like, what do you think is more likely? Like, if you had to bet on one thing happening, right? Do you think it's more likely the Maple Leafs win the division again or don't make the playoffs?
Oh, I think it's more like I don't think they made it to the playoffs.
Yeah, like the way that my buddy
Yeah.
was saying, he's like, Marner, like this team might not make the playoffs. They stink. They didn't find anyone. Michelli, who's that guy? Dakota Joshua? Yeah, right. Like just totally clowning on the guys who they brought in, just not realizing. But to me, what I responded with was, you need to get a lot more out of Austin Matthews now, though, because then the conversation went to, how's Matthews going to respond without Mitch Marner? And Matthews, it doesn't matter. Matthews has to show up. Matthews is the captain. Matthews is the highest paid player in the city on the team. Like Matthews has to assert himself as one of the top players in the NHL. He's paid that to be that, and he needs to lead this club. Like I understand it's going to be different. It's going to be a little bit of, it might look different, and it might be a bit of an adjustment for him. But Austin Matthews, we've seen him at times take over games like by himself. Like, don't get me wrong, was Mitch Marner a big part of that? Yeah. But when Austin Matthews is dialed in, looking like, a bull in a china shop sometimes, he can look like the best player in the league like he did 2 years ago when he won the Hart and kind of swept everything, right? That first year he hit 60 past Rick Vive's goal scoring record. Like that was an unbelievable season for him. And he looked and was the best player in the world that year. I believe we got the Ted Lindsay as well. So kind of just swept everything. If he can play like that, and again, I understand Marner played a role in allowing him to do that, but there was a lot of moments where he just took control of games and said, I got this, boys. And now that he's the captain going into year 2, there's going to be a lot more pressure for him to do stuff like that for me. I personally feel like there has to be more done by him. And last year he was injured, right? He was hurt, and it's not that you should use it as an excuse, but whatever, it's factually correct. Everyone knows that he suffered an injury in training camp, and it lingered throughout the entire year. So that's why he had the worst year statistically in his career. But now that he's had the entire summer to rest up, he should be ready to go. And if he has a fully healthy season, that's someone who can bring his game up and replace a lot of the production that you lost in Mitch Marner, and maybe even do a little bit more, go above and beyond, because he's your captain, and that's what a captain should do in the loss of one of your better players. He should be the one that needs to step up and lead.
Yeah, I was reading a story on the Leafs Nation just to kind of get an idea of what the impact of Marner not being with Matthews would be like, and they kind of referenced in that 23-24 season, there were 36 goals that Austin Matthews scored that were not assisted by Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, when you have a really good goal scorer, you don't necessarily need the best playmaker. You just need someone that's going to be able to find him and get him the puck. Marner was obviously, he made plays when there weren't plays, and their chemistry was kind of undeniable at times. But when you've got a goal scorer like Matthews, usually they're very good at figuring out ways to get the puck in the net, even when they don't have the, not every top goal scorer has a Marner-like player. Again, does it help? Absolutely. Will we expect him to have the exact same goal output without Marner? That'll be the big question. But he's also being paid in the sense that he's got to be able to drive it himself, right? And they're going to find, I think that's why when people talk about who's going to play with Austin Matthews next year, they bring up a Max Domi. There's a reason why. Max Domi is probably the, in terms of a makeup of a Marner-esque player, it is kind of like Max Domi. Max Domi is a playmaker. Now, is he at the level of Mitch Marner? No, right? But there were times when Matthews and Marner did not play with each other, it was Max Domi who did it. So I'm wondering if that becomes a factor in all this, right? Does Domi getting potentially an elevated role to playing with Matthews, unlock something more from him, and also kind of helps Matthews stay in kind of where he was with Marner. It's not going to be the same. I'm not saying you throw on Domi and it's going to be the same for Matthews. It's not, but maybe they're hoping that it's not going to be that much of a drop off.
Yeah. That's clearly going to be the hope. Like, I think Matthews or Michelli or Domi Michelli, one of those two will get an opportunity. Maybe even Robertson will get a little bit of a look up there to see what it looks like. But obviously, Mitch Marner over the last 3 years has been, his most frequent line mate. I'm looking into the 5-on-5 numbers, and over the last 3 years, he's played with Mitch Marner far more than anyone else. He's played 321 minutes with Marner at 5-on-5. Your next best forward is Nyes at 184 minutes. And then you have to go all the way down to Yarncroc, actually, who comes in 80 minutes and 22 seconds. Is this true? Oh, this is playoffs. My bad. Hold on. I'm like, wait a second. That seems too low. 321 minutes in 3 years. That seems way too low because I had it in playoffs, which is why. But I'm pretty sure Matthews' numbers statistically tend to be okay. Yeah. So Marner still over 2,000 minutes they've played together at 5-on-5 over the last 3 years. And with and without Marner, like the shot differential is pretty much the same when with and without Marner. And when it comes to goals, funny enough, Matthews actually has a better goal percentage without Mitch than with Mitch. Like Matthews, when he's with Mitch Marner, has a 60% goals for percentage. When he's without Mitch Marner, it's 63%. So like he is scoring more without Mitch Marner, which is kind of interesting throughout his career. So again, I think it's a little overstated the impact that Marner will have on Matthews. I think it's obviously going to have a team impact. The fact that you're losing a guy who kind of quarterbacks your power play, is a penalty killer, plays a lot of important minutes, and is clearly a terrific two-way forward, a Selke-worthy Selke candidate forward. But when it comes to him mitigating Matthews' success, I think it's a little overstated. I still think that it'll be on Austin to create for himself because ultimately that's what he's paid to do, and that's why he is the captain, and he is one of the best, top 5 players in the world when he's at his height, when he's at his best, and we got to see that next year for the Maple Leafs, and that's really how they're going to have success. Because if that doesn't happen, then this team's in trouble. So it really next year is going to rely solely on Matthews taking the bull by the horns and just getting down to business and getting back to being one of the best players in the world. If he can stay healthy, I think he could do that too.
Yeah.
So,
and like they and I look at a guy like Willie, he had 45 goals last year.
yeah,
He's the guy that, probably stands to get maybe a little more responsibility, especially on the power play.
well, right? Nyes is going to get more. Nyes will definitely get more responsibility, and so we'll see what ends up happening there. But just it was an interesting conversation that I was having with some buddies today. I thought, let's bring it to the pod and see what anyone else is thinking. I'm curious. Let me know in the comment section down below. Is there serious concern and worry that that Mitch Marner's departure will impact Matthews greatly? Let me know down below if that's a concern of yours going into next season. Okay, let's take one more break. When we come back, we'll get to Hockey Canada. One Maple Leaf was invited. A former Maple Leaf was invited. Only 3 goalies, and it's not who you'd expect. We'll get to that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as always. And last week, I think it was a Friday, Thursday, I think it was Friday afternoon. Hockey Canada announced an orientation camp that will be held from August 26th to August 28th. And they named 42 NHLers along with a number of women and Paralympic skaters as well. So I believe it's 92 players in total that were invited to this orientation camp, 42 of which make up the NHLers and on the men's side that'll be battling for spots on the Olympic team, essentially. And as predicted, only one Maple Leaf got the call to go to the orientation camp, and it was John Tavares. What's the likelihood you think JT can work his way onto this squad here, Dave?
Yeah, I was really high on it last year because I thought he was having a great season and things were kind of looking up for him. He didn't make it. And I'm like, I think he has a chance, of course, because he's also got experience, and that's something that you should always kind of consider when you're looking to put it together an Olympic team. But like, this is a tough Olympic team to crack. I'm gonna put up the forwards right now because like this is a crazy list here.
Yeah. A couple like kind of surprises too, I would say. Like Quentin Byfield. I didn't expect to see his name pop up here. I did expect to see Bedard and Celebrini. Whether or not one of those two can make the team, I suppose we'll see. Bo Horvat gets a little bit of love here. Carter Verhaeghe gets invited to come to this development camp. So there's going to be a lot of players. There's going to be a lot of guys battling, trying to become Olympians, trying to win a gold for Canada again. I mean, we haven't seen Olympic hockey since 2014. Like it's been a long time. By the time 2026 rolls around, it's 12 years since we last had Olympic hockey featuring NHLers. So the teams going to look vastly different outside of Crosby and maybe Brad Marchand. Was he on that team? I think he was probably on that team.
I believe so.
Probably going to be the only holdovers if Marchand makes it, which, we'll see what happens. Played well. He's invited, but probably be the only holdovers from 2014, I would think, who could defend that gold. Your thoughts on the forward group, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's a solid forward group. I do think that there are going to be some players that maybe they had a bit of an underwhelming time at the Four Nations. Like I look like a Seth Jarvis. Does he make it? I wonder
if you had to pick a dark horse, I guess though, for like who didn't make it at Four Nations, they'll have a strong opportunity to make it to the Olympic team. Like who's that guy who you think has a chance?
If depending on how his season starts and how it goes, Tom Wilson is one for me.
That's interesting name. Okay, that's an interesting name.
Because generally we don't talk a lot about like physical hockey during international, but that Four Nations tournament with the Americans and the way the Kachuk brothers were playing, like you want a guy with a little bit more of that edge. And let's say like you don't have let's say Marchand falls out of favor, like Tom Wilson would be my kind of like replacement for Brad Marchand. Like he's not a guy that's just gonna be purely fit like physical player. He could put up goals. He can score. He could put up offense, right? I think he had over 30 goals last year. Like that's I think like those intangibles are something that I don't think will get overlooked this time around. Like he was half decent in the playoffs for the Capitals too. So like even though he's a bit older, right? I mean he's only 31. I still like what his chance, especially with this not being Olympic sized ice too. Like I think that changes a little bit of that factor too, right? Because you're like, can he handle skating on that bigger surface? Well, that's null and point in this Olympics. So he is definitely one, and the other one is Wyatt Johnson.
Okay.
I've been a big fan of his since he's come into the league. I know he's not,
I love Wyatt Johnson. Don't get me wrong.
For some people, they don't really truly. I don't think they truly appreciate what he brings.
Oh, he's
right?
terrific. He is absolutely terrific. For me, one of the things that I look at when I'm like trying to think, okay, who could make the team that didn't last year? I'm looking at like the management and coaching group, and I'm like, all right, where is there like some links here? And Doug Armstrong is like the general manager and like the main figurehead when it comes to selecting this team. If Robert Thomas can stay healthy, like Robert Thomas is a guy to me that I think puts himself on the radar and makes his club. He's unbelievable. He is a terrific, terrific player. Can play, the wing, can play down the middle. He's a 200-foot player. He can create offense like the best of them, 90-point guy. Robert Thomas was kind of a player to me that I think makes it, who did not make Team Canada at the Four Nations. Between Bedard and Celebrini, though, which of those two has a better shot to make it, you think? If you had to bet on one of them, who would you pick?
I would probably say Celebrini, just because he's, shown a lot more. Again, one season for him, like he can go through a sophomore slump.
Which is kind of crazy to say that Celebrini has shown more than Bedard, considering the hype Bedard had. And everyone literally, when they were talking about Celebrini, it's like, he's a great player. He's not Bedard, though. He's not Bedard level. Like, everyone wanted to temper expectations on him as a prospect that he wasn't Bedard. And then he goes out and he has a better season than Bedard had in his rookie year, and was better than Bedard in his second year also. It's kind of wild. I'm with you. I think Celebrini right now has been the better player at the NHL level. Year 3 could be a type of rocket ship season for Bedsy, though. And if that happens and he starts to dominate and take over some games, that's a player that I think Hockey Canada would love to have on their team, because they see him as, big time future piece of the organization.
Well, that's it. Like him, Robert Thomas, Wyatt Johnson, as I mentioned. Like, I'm looking at some players here. Like, down the road, you got to kind of think about your other crop of players. Quinn Byfield, like you brought up, why is Quinn Byfield here? Here was times where this guy was flat out dominant, right?
Yeah.
Size, speed, those are kind of the things you like to have. But yeah, like there are some guys here that maybe they're also going to this camp and looking to show, maybe not for this year, but maybe down the road, if they want to get on the radar, have a good showing at this, I guess they're calling it the orientation, or like the Olympic orientation.
Defensively, they've got 13 players there. Morgan Rielly not among the 13 invited, by the way. So that kind of tells you what people think of Rielly, unfortunately, at this point in his career. But 13 players. The defensemen: Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson, Drew Doughty, Aaron Ekblad, Thomas Hartley, Cale Makar, Brandon Montour, Josh Morrissey, Colin Parayko, Travis Sanheim, Shake Theodore, Devin Tays, and Mackenzie Weegar, all invited to the showcase. These are all very solid, selections. So this will be difficult to kind of weed it out here. I thought that defensively, Thomas Hartley, when he got there, he proved that he belonged.
Oh, excellent.
Once he got there, right? And obviously Drew Doughty, he's just gonna have a spot there. Like, you just know that he's gonna. Actually, Doughty would be a holdover too. I forgot. Doughty actually, I believe, made the team in 2015.
He did.
So Doughty would also be a holdover from that year. I mean, Evan Bouchard, I think what he showed through the playoffs, proved that he can be a, force on the back end. He might be one of those defenders who displays one of these guys and makes the team. So should be an interesting little camp battle here for defensively. But I think a lot of people right away looked at the goaltenders, hoping to see, more names like Logan Thompson and Darcy Kemper and Joey Decore, like some of these guys who, like last year, the Hockey Canada kind of got clowned for the goaltending decisions that they made. And you would think that they would have brought some of those controversial players that they left off the list to get a look at them. But no, they brought 3 goalies, or invited 3 goalies to this camp. It's the same 3 that went to the Four Nations. So they're just set in their ways. They're like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? It's literally Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Sam Montembeault again. Like, why? Why are we going with the same three? I mean, ultimately, sure, you can choose the same three once you go to the Olympics, but like, you're not going to bring in a couple more guys and see what they're all about? What the hell did Logan Thompson do to Hockey Canada where they just refuse to give this guy a shot?
A lot of people are bringing up because Bruce Cassidy is one of the coaches, and apparently Bruce Cassidy and Logan Thompson did not get along very well together in Vegas. And there's a reason why, obviously, he was traded from Vegas to Washington, although I think if you were Vegas, you'd rather have Logan Thompson on your team than what you got from Aiden Hill and Elias Samsonov last year.
Yeah, probably.
It's not even Aiden Hill that puzzles me. Sam Montembeault. You are telling me we cannot find any goaltender within the NHL that can be a better option than Sam? I know we're talking about the third goalie, but you lose one goalie, right, to injury, then Sam Montembeault is that much closer to playing an Olympic hockey game for Canada. And I don't know what he has. I know that he's not like, I'm trying to think of a goalie right now. Like he's not like bottom of the barrel, but he ain't the first 5 goalies I think about. You can list it off how many goalies that you would choose over Sam Montembeault, and yet it just seems like we picked these 3 guys. We're good with these 3 guys. Nobody else is worthy of a second look.
I mean, like, clown on him as much as you want, right? You can clown on him as much as you want, but there's a Canadian goaltender that took his team to the Stanley Cup final in back-to-back years, right? Like, Stu Skinner has played in some pretty big games. Darcy Kemper is a pretty solid goaltender. He's not given a fair shake here.
No.
Reggie Blackwood, once he finally got onto a decent team, he was putting up some pretty good numbers when he was with the Colorado Avalanche, right? Like, so I'm not sure why they have not given, more opportunity. Jack Greaves is a player who last year had an unbelievable end to the season, put up some crazy numbers. What if he gets off to an amazing start, right? You're not going to give him a look because you're set in your ways with the 3 goalies that you have? I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're doing at the goaltender position. But like, to me, to not have Logan Thompson and like Darcy Kemper there specifically, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But we'll see. I mean, clearly it didn't matter. They did win gold with that trio at the 4 Nations. So they probably feel
the only thing I can think about with Montembeault, he was tied for second in wins among Canadian goalies last year with 31. But guess what? Sam Montembeault also played in 62 games last year.
Yeah.
The other, like Logan Thompson had the same number of wins in 43 games.
I want to see here, let me yeah. You know what else he had? He said he was second in wins among all Canadian goaltenders. Yeah. He was also first in losses. He had more losses than any Canadian goaltender.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So, it's funny actually. Jordan Binnington, second on that list. So Sam Montembeault lost 24 games. Jordan Binnington lost 22 games. Actually, Montreal made the playoffs. So I guess technically Montembeault did make the playoffs. Binnington and his squad did not.
Well, Binnington made the playoffs though.
They made the playoffs.
Yeah, they've lost. Remember they lost to the Jets.
Oh
Game
yeah,
7.
You're right.
Or Binnington looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like Binnington actually.
I have no problem with Binnington. Binnington, he's on the team. Like Binnington is on the team. He's got a golden pass right to the starting job. It's more so just like, and it's not even that they invited Montembeault. It's like you're not even gonna look at anyone else. Like it was already controversial 6 months ago. Like why are you doubling down? I just get a look at someone else. Just do it. I don't know. But anyway, all right, Dave. Let's leave it there. I'm sure we'll have something to scream about later in the week. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. And follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Wednesday. Maybe another listicle could be on the horizon. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.